Is meat back in fashion? Honestly, with the rise of stuff like the carnivore diet, beauty trends like salmon skincare injectables and beef tallow moisturizers, paired with just like the general decline in vegan options in restaurants and supermarkets, I can't help but wonder, is veganism on its way out and is meat back in fashion? So in today's video, we're going to look at like the return of meat, what is fueling it, and is it as bad as we think? Yeah, no matter what the trends, vegan beauty is always in fashion here. I'm pleased to announce that this video is sponsored by Hairburst and their vegan unicorn gummies. These are delicious little chewy vegan gummies packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that help boost hair growth, strengthen strands, and reduce breakage. No pills, no weird ingredients, just science-backed hair care, easy to fit in your routine because they taste so good. They make it hard to forget your two a day. I've been taking them regularly and my hair is feeling stronger and shinier. And they're also so good if your hair growth has like stopped or stalled. They can help kick that back into action. If you really want to boost your hair, I recommend getting their shampoo and conditioner as well. Also vegan, also cruelty-free, and clinically proven to reduce breakage by 86% after one wash. Honestly, my hair felt great after one wash and it really does help with strengthen, hydration, and just overall good hair energy. You can save 20% off with this link. I'll also put some details in the description. They are also buy one get one free right now, so you can get two for the price of one plus the 20% discount. It is such good value. But yeah, visible results in 90 days. And of course I love that they're vegan. It can be really tough finding vegan beauty vitamins, so I love that they've really like prioritized that and just found a sweetie for us for healthier hair. First off, I think it's fair to say that some of it is due to a natural backlash to the vegan era. Like 2019 to 2021 was just like a peak for veganism after it had been growing since like 2015 as well. So I think during a sustained increase in popularity, like we're talking like the Greg's vegan sausage rolls, like everyone swapping to oat milk, supermarkets and restaurants coming out with a new launch every day. Like veganism was everywhere. They couldn't get our name out of their mouths. Everyone wanted to be vegan, have a vegan option, talk about veganism. It was a great time. And to be honest, you might forget that it also did come with its own set of problems. Like vegan washing was a real thing. Sorry, just gonna roast some cauliflower I have. Might throw in a bit of tofu too. But yeah, slowly the mood started to shift, right? Like one thing, definitely the ultra-processed planet. Somehow any critique on ultra-processed food just ended up being totally directed onto veganism. And I'm not saying like our vegan meats don't deserve some like looking into, but if you've actually read this book, it is not an anti-vegan book, not in the slightest. I actually felt like it was pretty good for our case, and it goes in and it sounds like Nestle and KFC and ice cream and stuff like that, and somehow the media has just banked on people not reading this book and just like relying on them for the message, and they've completely spun it, and it's really frustrating. Basically, there's a backlash towards ultra-processed foods, which I think has some real merits to it. But I just think it's been so painfully misdirected at veganism, and because of that, I feel like you've had a lot less people choosing the vegan meats over like factory farm meats, which is really frustrating. Another thing is I feel like there's a lot of climate fatigue. I think we're all worried about the climate crisis, right? But I feel like back in like 2019, there was a bit more optimism about it and us like collectively turning it around. So it felt like a group effort, you know, like we're all in this together. And I feel like over the years, it's just become kind of apparent we're not. And I feel like the pandemic kind of highlights that, like we were all staying at home, but we're the politicians and like just stuff like that. Like people are being told to cut meat out from their diet, but then you're watching like billionaires fly private jets. Like people are just thinking a bit like, why am I making sacrifices when the billionaires aren't? In fact, the billionaires are growing. So I understand why people feel a bit hopeless and like, I don't really want to do anything. Why should I do something? And I kind of get it. Like some people I feel like need to do what feels right to them, like the right thing, because like that's how we live. Like you don't like to live opposite to your values, you know? Like I couldn't not be vegan. I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm sacrificing here and no one else is. Like what's the point? I'm thinking like I could not stomach doing anything else. But some people need to know they're part of a greater collective to do the right thing, if that makes sense. Like they don't want to do it if it feels fruitless, and that's just how different people are made. It can be frustrating when you're of one camp watching the other camp, but it's just, that's human nature and you're never going to change it. But when it doesn't feel like we're collectively on board and working towards the same goal, it's really hard to keep those people on board. Put some sesame oil on, by the way. Now my Middle Eastern spice kit. Yummy. And a bit of salt. And I also just feel like there's been a growing trend in mocking woke culture, like just any culture of caring about people, the planet, the animals, minorities, anything like that, just for some reason is kind of out of fashion, which is really frustrating, really disheartening. That's not the sort of climate in which a vegan movement thrives, basically. It's very individualistic and very kind of like greedy and selfish. That is kind of the environment to allow meat to flourish and allow for veganism to kind of, I wouldn't say decline, but plateau. And generally, I think just after you've had a great like moment in sun like veganism has, like we had a really good run there, whatever a trend is, there's always a counter trend that follows. So I do understand that part of it is just like the cycle of life, the cycle of trends, cycle of human nature. A little bit of backlash and a little bit of swinging the pendulum the other way was always a bit inevitable. But yeah, has it gone too far? Is it going too far? And how do we swing it back? I also think it's fair to say that it feels like veganism is on the out with some crowds more than others. And I think like a big problem these days is that politics is kind of like being treated like sports teams at the moment. And people aren't necessarily looking at their decisions through like science and facts, more through culture wars. Just grating up a beetroot. Like science will tell you that we are eating too much meat to be healthy, and like it's unsustainable to keep up with this global meat consumption and like have a thriving planet. It's not possible. The science is there, and it's also very clear that one of the biggest things we can do to kind of transition to a greener future is cut out meat, eggs, dairy, anything from animals, any animal agriculture, or at least reduce it. Like it's very clear, very stark, but that's not what really people are looking at. It's more culture wars. It's more like, no, going vegan's a left-wing thing to do, and that's not where my politics aligns. Like, even if I would like to have a thriving planet for my grandchildren or whatever people are thinking, I think there's just a lot more people equating veganism with a political choice, and particularly if you're on the other end of politics, you're not only not going to go vegan, you're also like going to really stick your heels in the sand about it. You might even do the opposite of veganism, which is the carnivore diet. Like the carnivore diet is like the opposite of vegan diet, right? Like you're eating everything a vegan won't eat. You're eating the meat, you're eating butter, you're eating eggs, you're just like eating pure, unadulterated like animal products and no vegetables or anything. It's such a ridiculous diet, it's so frustrating, but it's definitely like picked up traction. And I have someone point this out to me on a video recently, but like the sheer existence of the carnivore diet, which is so ridiculous and eliminates so many like actual key foods like fruit and veg. Like I feel like the first lesson you're taught in life is about getting your 5 a day right, and these people aren't getting 5 a week. They're completely eliminating any fruit and veg from their diet. It's just like so dumb. But because it is the opposite of a vegan diet, I think it has helped drag the vegan diet down to its level. Like a vegan diet now seems as extreme as a carnivore diet because it's the opposite of carnivore diet. So like they're being silly and extreme in one way and we're doing it the complete opposite way, which is like not true, but it's somehow shifted the framing of veganism to that. And I don't think everyone's like fallen for that trick, but I do think there are some people who think like both are ridiculous diets when it's like, no, actually a vegan is a very healthy, safe diet. People like nutritionists can get on board with it, whereas like you're hard pressed to find one that will agree with a carnivore diet. Like again, science, please. But yeah, it just feels like politically, like if you're right wing, if you vote Trump or like Trump or anything like that, you're then gonna be like drinking raw milk and doing the carnivore diet and rubbing beef tallow on your face as skincare. Like it seems to have just ingrained itself in that sort of politics. It's so weird how that's just intertwined and how food has just intertwined that so much. And like I understand why veganism is kind of like seen as a bit more left-wing. It's putting the environment and compassion for others like at the forefront of the movement, but like I can only see like the carnivore diet as putting at the forefront like the desire to over consume our resources. I don't really understand it. And like meat eating somehow ends up feeling like nationalistic and like pro farmers as well, like pro local farmers and stuff like that. I don't know how the meat industry has managed to like own the pro farmers side of the argument, because like hello, like who do you think grows our tomatoes, our soybeans for our tofu, our red onions, our potatoes? Like pretty much everything in a vegan diet is grown by a farmer. We love farmers, we really do. And I don't know how for some reason vegans hate farmers and those that eat meat love them. It doesn't add up, and it's so frustrating that they managed to claim that side of the argument. And I feel like it feels more nationalistic and more like supporting your local economy to eat meat than to eat veg, which is, it doesn't add up. And also like I feel like if you actually cared about like the humans in the like food industry and the farming industry or whatever, like abattoir workers and people working in factory farms, it is like horrendous for their mental health. Like it's not a job anyone would want. It's nasty, it's disgusting, it's cruel, and it's not good for a person. Can you imagine working there day in day out? It's not nice to be around all that cruelty and death. It's not. And you know, if you actually care about people in the industry, I feel like it aligns with vegan beliefs. I don't know what else to tell you. And yeah, I just feel like also the meat industry has felt very threatened by the vegan movement, and they've done so much in the last few years to kind of intimidate the vegan movement and kind of like discredit it and like try and put it down. Whether that's like there have been so many laws trying to get around like calling like vegan sausages, and it just again makes no sense. They keep saying like there's consumer confusion, which like whether you're a vegan or a meat eater, I hope we're all offended by that. Meat eaters are not going into a supermarket and picking up vegan sausages and thinking they're pork sausages. No one is doing that. No one is doing that. In fact, like that'd be an awful business model if you're selling vegan sausages and the vegans can't tell that your products are vegan if they think it's meat. Like it's not gonna happen. Like people aren't dumb, and it's insulting to suggest that we're struggling with that. But they're doing that so they can try and stop like the vegan industry from labeling their products in a way that's easy for the consumer to understand how they're swapping it into their diets. For example, like if I'm making bangers and mash, I want to go buy a vegan sausage, and it really helps if I know that that is what I'm buying. But if they have to call it like vegan cylinders, I'm going to be a bit confused. Like they're making it more difficult for the consumer, not easier. And it's not to help consumers at all, it's to protect their interests, to protect their foods, to make it harder for people to swap away from meat onto plant-based alternatives, which are better for the planet and often better for the health. It's so frustrating. There's also like huge advancements going on with lab-grown meat, and you keep seeing like different states, for example, or like different areas just trying to like block it out, again for no good reason. It's just to protect the meat industry. It's not to protect you and I or the planet. It's just to protect their best interests, their profits, and their business model, which is destroying the planet and hugely cruel. And it's just, they've got so much money and they are going to spend it to protect that industry and protect that model and to keep their profits just churning and churning and churning, and that means throwing veganism under the bus. They're going to keep pushing narratives, they're going to keep trying to enforce laws to just like put us down, but we just got to keep fighting back, and that's what we're doing. But it's definitely contributing to the rise in the interest in meat and like the like distaste for veganism that seems to be growing amongst non-vegans. And honestly, I think a lot of what I've already said is actually pretty much like fringe culture. I'm not going to suggest everyone who like votes differently to me feels like this. Like I don't think that's true at all. I think that's real exaggeration and caricature of like a right-wing voter. I'm going to be honest. I think there are little things that seep in. Like I think, for example, like the connection of ultra-processed foods to veganism, I think is really something that has just been on headlines a lot and just seeps into culture because you see it a lot and you just don't look deeply into it. You just subconsciously think that's true, whatever. If you don't challenge it, that's what happens, and we don't all have the time in the day to challenge everything we read online. That's how misinformation is doing so well these days, and there's so much of it and you can't challenge it all. Some of it's going to seep in, right? To add some sympathy to like the growing desire for more meat, I think a common ground that we can all stand on is like that desire for nostalgia and simpler times. And I feel like the meat industry has done really well to associate itself with like older times, simpler times, like pre-internet, and like the foods you've grown up on. And like veganism, it has been around for so long. Like formally it got like coined by the Vegan Society in like the 1940s, but like throughout history it's been around in many different forms. It's got a very rich history in many different cultures. I don't know, like everyone thinks like the French don't have very many vegan recipes, but like ratatouille is a classic vegan recipe because it was kind of like the thing you'd cook every night because it's just what you had lying around. Like so many very simple, kind of like the peasanty sort of recipes that many cultures have a recipe that is vegan in them because it was just about using those ingredients like fruit, veg, what's around. Like yeah, it's a lot more seeped into your culture than people let you think. And I understand why people think like vegan is such a modern thing because it didn't even become like big culturally until like the late 2010s. So it feels like a modern thing, and you kind of want to group it with all these other modern things like being glued to our phones and Donald Trump being in office and cost of living crisis. Like it feels like it kind of arose at a time when a lot of other things were going to shit, right? So I understand people kind of wanting to reject it under those grounds. Believe it or not, I actually do think there is a bit of an anti-capitalist nature towards like rejecting vegan food, where it's kind of like rejecting anything new and just wanting to go back to a simpler times where like the internet was a place you could go to, not something that lived in your pocket, where we didn't have like next day delivery and we didn't have this huge polarization of politics. And I think that is a feeling we can all relate to. We're not all taking the same path to get there, but I just think it is important to kind of like try and find common ground with people that you kind of disagree with. That's how we move forward in life and try and fix this polarization crisis we're in. And like even for me, like my parents weren't vegan, they weren't even vegetarian, they ate meat, and same with my grandparents. So like if I were to try and look at like ancestral recipes that could have got passed down through my family, it would be very meat based because that's what they ate. I'm the different one, so it's not really like, so yeah, I think there is a piece of it like that. I think people are kind of rejecting a lot of new stuff, and veganism feels like one of those things. And that can even just be presented in stuff like skincare. Like, it's not all food fighting, it is also like, seen on TikTok, a lot more people are trying to like rub beef tallow on their skin because it's sort of thing like their grandmothers would do. But like, beauty has come a long way since the olden days, and I would much rather use a modern day face cream than rubbing beef tallow on your skin. It's not going to be good for your skin. We all know that. And again, I wouldn't say this is like a majority of people, but it is a side of TikTok. And on that note, I feel like the desire to go to meatier times is greatly exaggerated by the internet, and I think a lot of it is just like, we're likely to stay clicked onto things which are a bit outrageous, right? So if someone's telling you they are rubbing beef fat on their face, you might watch a bit longer because you're like, sorry, did I hear that right? And you're more likely to click on a headline where someone's saying that the latest injectable is salmon semen, because you're wondering why the hell is someone injecting that into their face. I think clicks and views can mistake like curiosity for a desire to like use these products and try these things. I'm sure there are some people who like to use like every new weird beauty treatment out there, but you know, I think the majority of people are curious to know why people are doing that without giving it a go. Similarly, last year I felt like snail mucin, which is like snail slime, definitely not vegan, like that was kind of in trend. I think some of that came from K-beauty, but also like a lot of it was that intrigue. It's like, why are people putting that on their skin? And like curious about what the benefits are, because you're like, surely there isn't any. So yeah, I think it might seem like meat is kind of like coming back into fashion, but I think a lot of it is like online discourse, clickbait, viral videos, but in practice, people can't afford to eat that much meat. And although veganism isn't still like on the rise or like the big popular thing, the vegan boom still had an incredible impact, an incredible lasting impact. Like, trust me, I've been vegan since 2007, and the vegan boom, which started around 2015, peaked at around 2019, 2020. It did so much change people's perceptions of veganism, spread education around like what climate friendly meal choices are and how like avoiding animal products really helps out with like eating more eco-friendly. And we got a lot of like vegans in that time, but also a lot of people who are a bit more like vegan curious and veg curious. A lot of people learning new recipes that they still use to this day, which they wouldn't have done if it weren't for that boom. And even right now in like beauty and fashion advertising, food is in. And sure, I'm seeing stuff like cakes and pastries in there, but a lot of it is still like fruit and veg, which goes to show that no, not a lot of people are finding like meat that appealing and sexy, especially on like the feminine side of things. So no, it doesn't really feel like meat is back in fashion. It feels like they really want you to believe it is, but I also believe it's true that veganism isn't as in fashion and on trends as it was a few years ago. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially like any real world examples. I feel like I spend way too much of my time online, and sure, I feel like there's maybe an increase in my like everyday friends maybe trying out a bit of bone broth and like the odd thing. I don't feel like it's necessarily in a rejection of like vegan food and vegan culture. I feel like that's them switching out their like KFCs or McDonald's for like kind of like healthier, more wholesome meat alternatives. But yeah, let me know what you think. And thank you again to the sponsors of the video, Hairburst. I really am loving their gummies. And I always appreciate a brand bringing out vegan options for something that's a little harder to find in the industry. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Chat to you again soon. Bye. Mwah.